Reading with your kids.
Hola, niho, konnichiwa, assalamu alaikum, shalom, mahaba, ciao, bonjour, namaste, jumbo. Bienvenidos, my friends. My name is Jedley, and you are listening to Reading with Your Kids. We're blasting out to you from the vibrant and book-loving neighborhood of Reedville in Boston, Massachusetts. This is more than just a podcast. It's a movement. Our mission is to help families grow stronger, closer, and kinder through the magic of reading together. And we are absolutely thrilled to have you join us on that journey. Help us spread the joy by sharing this podcast with the people you love. Tell your kids' teachers, school librarians, neighbors, even the crossing guard that they can hear us on the WREB AM FM 24/7 radio network. And they can find us on the iHeartRadio app, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Good Pods, Catsbox, Player FM, Amazon Music, Audible. Wherever you find your favorite shows, you can find Reading with Your Kids. We have a really wonderful show lined up for you today. First up, Rob Renzetti returns to Reading with Your Kids to celebrate his new middle grade novel. It's the third in the series, The Cursed Cloak of the Wretched Wraith. And later in the show, Colleen Paeff will join us to celebrate Firefly Song, Lynn Faust, and the Great Smoky Mountain Discovery. My friends, I want to let you know that this episode of Reading with Your Kids is brought to you by Zevo Life. Have you ever hit that mid-afternoon slump right before it's time to read with your kids? You want to bring the magic, but your energy, you've already checked out. That's where Zevo Life comes in. It's a game-changing daily nutrient boost made from the world's best microalgae. It's packed with more plant protein than anything else on Earth, plus fiber, antioxidants, vitamins, minerals, and so much more, all in just 1 teaspoon. People are raving about how Zevo Life supports gut health, boosts energy, and improves skin and hair. Zevo Life is something that's going to help you feel great and look like a Storytime superhero. Visit Zevo.life, that's ZIVO.life, and enter the promo code READ at checkout, and you'll receive 30% off your order. With a risk-free 30-day guarantee, why not give it a shot? Because when you feel good, your once upon a time hits just right. Check it out today, Zevo.life, ZIVO.life. Use the promo code READ to save 30%. Before we invite our guests into the studio, I would love to invite you to visit a very special website. It's clownswithoutborders.org, clownswithoutborders.org. This is a group that I absolutely adore. I am part of Clowns Without Borders, and I had the honor of being part of the 2023 tour of El Salvador. I had so much fun joining with artists from all over the world to bring a smile to people who really needed it and really appreciated it too. And we would love for you to join us as a monthly Joy Maker. The Joy Makers, they're a family of people just like you who love to laugh and make other people feel good. So please take a moment and visit clownswithoutborders.org and consider joining me as a Joy Maker. Join us right now from beautiful California. Our guest is returning to the show to celebrate the third book and the final installment in his Horrible Bag series. The new book is called Cursed Cloak of the Wretched Wraith. Please welcome back to the show, Rob Renzetti. Hey, Rob, how are you?
I'm good, Jed. How are you?
It's
good to be back here with you.
It is great. This is, I think we celebrated all 3 books in the series.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for having me on 3 times. I'm happy to be here again.
Delighted. I feel like I'm going to the gym, just, working, saying the titles of your books.
Well, your tongue has gone to the gym, right? Your tongue is getting a workout there. Yeah, I didn't intend to make them all so alliterative and tongue twistery, but it just kind of happened that way, especially the second and third books. But I think the Cursed Cloak of the Wretched Wraith might be the worst of the 3 in terms of tripping up a tongue here and there. But, what can I say?
And it's as you're looking at it, and then you're looking at the Wraith, okay, do I really pronounce that Wraith, and there's all those
Yeah.
W's and R's. And
Yes, no, it's tricky, but yes, it's Wraith. It is a
so,
Wraith.
so let's talk about the Cursed Cloak of the Wretched Wraith. What's this book all about?
Well, I forget. Do we spoil things on this? Should I try and be more vague or more specific?
we can be vague. We don't want to drive people over the cliff.
Sure. I mean, in case anybody is just tuning into the series now, the series itself is about an 11-year-old boy named Zenith Maelstrom and his older sister, Apogee Maelstrom, and he brings this horrible bag into his house unadvisedly. His sister gets kidnapped by this weird spidery thing that climbs out of it and then pulls her back in. He discovers there's a crazy other world inside the bag called Grabog, and it's full of crazy, weird, quirky, and dangerous creatures. And he has 3 adventures in the bag. He keeps getting pulled back in there. And this one, Apogee has stayed behind at the end of the second book for reasons I don't want to spoil, but she has unfinished business in Grabog, and they have a big disagreement about whether to leave or not at the end of the second book. He wants her to leave with him. She doesn't want to leave. She gets some compatriots of hers to basically kick him out and shut him out of Grabog. And now he seems, at the beginning of the third book, he seems to be trapped. He has no way to get back to her. He does find an alternate way back to Grabog, and he goes after her to try and persuade his sister to come back with him because it's just a very dangerous place, and she's been there for a very long time now. And he discovers that not only is it's even more dangerous now because the physics book that he left behind, he had a school book with him. The physics book that he left behind is somehow bringing the quantum physics theories in itself to life. So things like the grandfather paradox is actually an old man who thinks that everybody who shows up might be his own grandchild sent back in time to kill him. And Schrödinger's cat is actually a cat that lives in a silver box. And you never know whether when you open the box whether she'll be alive or she'll be dead. So there's funny characters like that, but there's also danger afoot. Because Grabog is this weird land that's actually held together with threads. The string theory that happens in quantum mechanics is somehow destabilizing it because the threads in Grabog are now the strings in string theory. And there's like all these weird otherworldly earthquakes that are happening because the strings are vibrating or the threads are vibrating like the strings in string theory do. You can see there's lots of scientific ideas I had to get familiar with here. They're all played for comedy. They're all played very light. Nobody needs to do research to read the book. I had to do some research. I had to get familiar with quantum physics, and science was my worst subject. So I really did a number on myself deciding to put all this into the third book. But I wanted to make it a little bit different. It's still a horror fantasy book, but now there's a little bit of a sci-fi aspect to this third book as well.
I'm wondering, were you trying to get back at all the science teachers that tormented you?
I didn't have that many science teachers that tormented me. I took the minimal amount of science classes I could get away with in high school and college. So I only had a few science teachers. I really hated science, which is silly because I am a big fan of sci-fi, and I always have been ever since I started reading. One of the first book series I ever read was Isaac Asimov's Foundation series, and I loved that. Of course, the science in that's pretty light, like the science in this third book is very light. So if any kids are worried about the science, needing to know anything about science to read this book, they need not worry. It's not necessary. I've distilled it all down into very easily gotten concepts.
Well, that's certainly good for somebody like me. I'm imagining you in the space where you write and being outside the space that you write and listening to you just guffaw as you're coming up with these ideas and putting them down on paper.
Well, yeah, I mean, part of the reason I wanted to write these books was to amuse myself. I've had a successful career in animation, and of course, I want the books to do well, but I don't need them to do well in order to keep a roof over my head. So it really was a passion project from the beginning. It was really about doing something joyful that was a personal goal of mine rather than a financial goal. Of course, I want to keep writing books, and so I hope they're successful. And of course, I want to make money from the books I write. But really, when I wrote the first book, it was kind of a dare to myself to see if I could write it, because it had been a goal for mine to write my own original story for a long time, but I hadn't gotten around to it. So I basically just made it a New Year's resolution and spent my spare time doing that first book. And it took me several years to get it up and running. And then luckily Penguin wanted it and they wanted 2 more. So the second books have come much more quickly, but luckily the way my career's worked out, I've had the space to devote time to them when I needed to devote time to them. So it's been a real joy to write them. And like I said, I kind of presented a challenge to myself with every book. The second book was like, I think we might have talked about MC Escher was a big influence on the second book, because there's this jail in Grabog that Zenith gets sent to in the second book. And I wanted it to be weird, like Grabog is weird. And I thought if it had these MC Escher-esque spaces in it where like things don't make sense, stairways don't lead anywhere, or they lead back to where they started, all these weird puzzle spaces, that would be a cool thing to do. So I kind of can challenge myself to describe MC Escher pictures in words, and that was quite a challenge. And now for this third book, I've challenged myself to somehow integrate quantum physics into the storyline. Again, why did I do that? I must have been crazy to try it, but it was an idea that came into my head, and I couldn't resist it once I thought of it. So I think it worked out well.
It sounds like the worst thing someone can do to you is tell you can't do that. It's just gonna
I do like challenges. I do like, especially writing challenges and stuff. I think of myself as a plotter, and I did outline the 3 books, but I tend to always like lose the plot somewhere in the middle. I think of better conclusions, but then like I don't know how to get to those better conclusions. So then I kind of have to start pantsing in the middle, and I write myself into dead end, would look like dead ends sometimes, and I kind of enjoy the challenge of like getting out of those seeming dead ends. Like how am I going to get out of here to where I need to go at the end of the book? And usually I find a way to do it. So it's kind of, the books themselves are kind of a puzzle for me to figure out and write for myself. So it's been great. I've enjoyed it a lot. And I think the third book really is a worthy conclusion to the whole series. I set some things up in the first and second books that, pay off. The books all do kind of interlock like pieces in a puzzle. It's not super intense, but there are things that I've set up in the first and second books that were always meant to be paid off and revealed in the third book. So that has been done. I hope readers will enjoy seeing the answers to some of the questions they may have. I didn't answer every single question, but I did answer a lot of questions that readers might have about the characters in the book and certain things. So I hope they'll enjoy it.
So noting that there are a lot of answers in book 3, answers a lot of those questions, is it best for somebody to go back and start it at book 1 before they hit books 2 and 3?
Oh yeah. I mean, if you, unless you want to be confused, I would, you want to read the whole series from beginning to end. And, I hope you'll love the first book enough that you'll want to pick up books 2 and 3. But book 1 basically sets up everything you need to know and raises some questions, answers some of those questions in book 1, but some questions are left dangling. More questions are raised in book 2. The middle of the series usually is the kind of like, oh my God, it's all kind of a more cliffhanger-y ending. But, the whole thing I think really holds together well, and it's hard for me to say that I'm a Midwestern boy, so it's hard for me to boast. But I'm trying to be as boastful as I can about these books because I'm proud of them, and I think they're a lot of fun. There's some scares. There's a lot of humor. There's a lot of quirky characters. I'm happy with how they turned out. So I'm very pleased with them, proud of them, and I want as many kids and adults to read them as possible.
Yeah. You mentioned there a couple of times when you found yourself kind of almost painted into a corner. How far out can you see something like that, that you can say, oh, this isn't going to work. I got to change something here?
I mean, the way I work is I outline, but then I write. This is an animation term, straight ahead. In animation, when you animate straight ahead, you don't set out your poses. You don't put goalposts like I want my character to be posed like this in 20 frames from now. You just start at the beginning and keep going. So I kind of do both. I put these goalposts out there. And I like put the outline into a Word document. And then I basically erase the outline as I go. As I write chapter 1, like any notes I had for chapter 1 are gone. And then I go to chapter 2. So I know where I'm trying to head, but sometimes I'm like, if I look, I'm like say I'm on chapter 10, I look ahead to chapter 20, I'm like, I don't think that's going to work anymore. So, you know, there certain things get discarded. And what'll happen when that happens in my writing process is I turn on caps locks, and I just write down my new ideas, like where they kind of belong, and write them into the outline, and you know, keep the old ideas there until I know I'm going to get rid of the old ideas, but put new ideas in. And then now I'm like, okay, now I'm kind of working towards that. Will it work? So it's kind of like going back and forth, kind of setting new goalposts out there to try and hit, and eliminating old ones, or putting them into a different, you know, saying, you know, putting a question mark at the end of things. I like to put a question mark at the end of things, because then I know, like, you may not end up there, but that may be one solution.
Yeah.
And strangely, a lot of stuff that seems like it would have been set up from the beginning in book one, a lot of stuff just kind of fell into place for me, like a lot of happy accidents, things I had never planned, that just kind of worked worked well. You know, because when I wrote book one, I you know, the reason that Grabog is this world that's like sewn together is because it exists in this bag, which is made up of all these different weird animal skins, and they're all stitched together. So I carried those stitches through into Grabog itself. So there's instead of like paths and roads, there's like stitches, and you follow the stitches to get to different locations in the world. But I never thought I was going to be doing anything with string theory in book three. I didn't think I was going to do any quantum physics. But like when I started researching quantum physics and learned about string theory, I thought, like, well, the strings and the threads will get confused with each other. The threads will become the strings in string theory. And that was something I'd never thought of. It was a happy accident. So there's a few of those kind of things along the way that I benefited from. I don't know that I'll always have that kind of luck in my future writing, but it was nice to kind of have it for this first trilogy.
You know, I think a lot of people, you know, we've had authors come on and they say, oh, this character surprised me with what she did.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people who aren't involved in creating things are maybe surprised to hear that you're oftentimes surprised by what your characters do or what happens in your story.
Yeah, I mean, I think people that perhaps, you know, you are in control and you can stop them from doing anything you want, but there is a little bit of improvisation even in the most planned out stuff. And, you know, when you sit down to write a scene, you don't know exactly what a character is going to say until you kind of see how they're reacting off the other characters. The biggest surprise for me in this series was I introduced the idea of this bully, not even a bully, but like a nemesis for Zenith in the real world on Earth, called Kevin Churl in the first book. And it was actually my wife's idea. This is like at the end of the book, I didn't have this planned, but at the end of the book, my wife suggested that, like, to show that Zenith has had some emotional growth, he should make up with Kevin, and they should become, you know, they should bury the hatchet, basically, because they've got this dispute over something that happens in book one, that had happened in the past. So he does, and he becomes friends. And Kevin became a character that was completely different. I thought he'd be some sort of bully character, but by the end of book one, he's not. He's Zenith's new best friend. And in book two, he's along for the ride. And like, I never saw that coming. I never thought that was going to happen. And it was a suggestion of my wife, but when she suggested it, I loved it so much better than just having like a nemesis. Like, I now have, like, because Zenith is like this risk taker in book one, but by the end of book one, he kind of realizes he's been too reckless. Mm-hmm. So he's learned that lesson, but Kevin hasn't, and Kevin becomes the more reckless of the two. And now Zenith is like got to deal with another Zenith. He's got to deal with like a version of himself that hasn't learned the lessons of book one, and he's like, oh God, I hate being the responsible one, but I have to be here because Kevin's more reckless than I am.
But I can relate to that.
I think everybody can.
Tell me how different, you talked a little bit about how you create your animation. How different is it telling stories through the written word as compared to animation?
I mean, it's very different and also a lot the same in that when you're working in animation, the shows I've worked in animation, a lot of them have been what are called outline driven. So in outline driven shows, for a 7-minute cartoon, you might get like a 2 or 3 page outline, and it doesn't tell you all the jokes. It kind of just tells you the basic story and what's supposed to be funny about it. So as you're drawing, you're also writing. So like I started my career drawing and writing, like drawing the gags and writing the dialogue. And sometimes the gags are very visual, and you don't need a lot of dialogue, and sometimes the gags are dialogue based. So writing, you're relying in a novel, you're relying on the written word entirely, but even so, you're still sometimes doing things that are more visual, like trying to describe visuals to a person and doing a section where someone's not talking, but you do rely maybe a little more heavily on dialogue sections to get things across. But you don't want to have all dialogue in your books or it gets boring. You want to have visual adventures or try and visualize things for your readers. So it's really a matter of degree. The skills are both there. I can't rely on drawings to sell anything, though. You have to rely completely on words, and that is the thing that is majorly different. Though you are still doing visual storytelling, you're doing it through words, whereas in animation you have those wonderful drawings to relate stuff, and sometimes you don't need the words to do so.
Yeah. I'm imagining one of the things that would be fun about reading this series with your kids or co-reading it and talking about it is taking turns visualizing. What do you think is going on in this scene? And what do you think that looks like? And what do you think that other thing looks like? And what do you think a world that's tied together with strings would feel like?
Yeah, I would think so. I mean, I try to make my writing visually evocative. Is that the phrase I'm looking for?
Sounds good.
So, I hope that the visuals of the world do come to mind. Believe me, I would love to have like an illustrated version where there's an illustration for every chapter or something like that. But maybe in the future. But I have drawn some of the characters and some of that. I think the third book might have that artwork, and I can't remember whether it survived or not. But I did a couple of visuals, and actually, if it's in the third book, and I'm not sure it is because I haven't seen the final version of it. There were a couple of drawings I did of two characters, Creeble the Gargoyle and Raggedy Albert, who's this 7-foot tall living ragdoll. I did those before I ever sold the series. In fact, they went out as part of the pitch packet along with a draft of the first book, A Horrible Bag of Terrible Things. My agent sent those visuals out, so they kind of helped sell the series as well. Now we got a real professional book illustrator to do the actual covers, and he's much better artist than I am, and I'm very pleased with what he did. But I did do those as kind of inspiration, and I hope they're going to be included in the third book. I haven't gotten my advanced copies yet. I don't know how if the page numbers worked out to have them included or not. I hope they did.
Yeah. Is it kind of bittersweet ending the series at this time?
It is. I mean, I finished writing the third book a while ago, so I kind of went through my melancholy, bittersweet period with it. It was hard not having a Horrible Bag story to write because I've been writing them on and off since 2018. That's the year I started writing the first one on my own. So it was strange not to have it to write. Yeah, it was bittersweet. But now that I'm kind of talking to people like you and starting to promote it because it's about to be out in August, that's an exciting time. I'm happy to be talking about it again, and I get to kind of relive it and think about it again because it's been off my plate for a few months now. Mm-hmm. So yeah, no, it's bittersweet. I love these characters. Maybe I'll do more with them someday, but on to new adventures and different things. I'm working on a new project, which is completely different than anything I've ever done before. Now I can't talk about it as of yet, but there's other things on the horizon, and I've got to post it here on my laptop with a list of new ideas I'm going to kind of write up and present to my literary agent at some point soon. But yeah, it is bittersweet. I love these characters. I hope readers will fall in love with them too. Like I said before, I'm very proud of this series of books, and I think it's a lot of fun and very imaginative and very, very quirky and unusual. And I think, to say something's unique when there's so much out in the world that people are creating is a little bit of a stretch. But I think it is. I have a very strange perspective on things, which I'm proud to have put to work in this book series.
Any thoughts or any talk about turning the series into an animated flick or a graphic novel?
There's talk on my part, but so far nobody's biting because the animation industry has kind of been in the doldrums for the last few years, and new ideas are not exactly being smiled on. I mean, we've got I love SpongeBob SquarePants, but we have like, I think 4 or 5 different SpongeBob SquarePants TV shows now. That's kind of the state of the animation industry right now, which is if something's proven, let's do more of it. Let's do even more of it. Let's do it again. You know, there's been how many Scooby-Doo series, how many Batman movies. These are characters I love, but it would be nice if there was room for some other newer ideas. So I hold out hope. Nothing's happening quite yet, but my animation agent will keep pushing, and I certainly would love to see some sort of version of this. I think it could be a great miniseries, could be a great set of movies. So we'll see. You know, the industry goes up and down, and when things go back up, I'm hoping there might be an animated version someday.
Is it just that it's so expensive to create an animated film, or just a film in general, that folks are like, I don't want to take a chance and that's guaranteed to make $1 bazillion?
Yeah, I mean, it's the financial pressures are more extreme all the time. The people that make the decisions are generally not artists. They are executives their job is dependent upon them making good decisions and having more hits than failures. So the incentive is not to gamble. That's always been the case, but it's even more so today. It's gotten even more extreme. So yeah, it's a strange time for animation. And I'm lucky. I'm working on a show that I really liked. It's called Big City Greens. It's an original show. It's been going since about 2016, and I was on it actually back in 2016 for a couple of years, and now I'm back working on it again. But that is an original TV show that Disney's producing, and I love working with those guys and on that show. But that was an original idea that nobody heard from before, and now it's a huge hit from Disney. So, people need to take gambles. They kind of know it, but it's hard for anyone to take too many gambles at any one time. So, if they can make another SpongeBob spinoff or do another Batman movie, they're gonna definitely do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Kind of disappointing, but I guess understandable.
Yeah, believe me, it's a strange time, and hopefully things will turn around.
Yeah. Well, we should tell everybody where they can turn to find out more about the series and find out more about you.
Yeah, well, I have a website, robrenzetti.com. My name's Renzetti for those who can't figure it out, but it's robrenzetti.com. I have all my books there. Actually, I gotta update my website to feature the Cursed Cloak of the Wretched Wraith now. It needs to have its own page. So I've been working on that. But yeah, they can find out about all that stuff. There's other stuff there, details about my animation career and now my writing career, other books I've written, TV shows I've worked on, including the one I created, My Life as a Teenage Robot. A lot of my history is up on that website, so it's a good place. They can also find me on Twitter, or if you want to prefer X, I prefer Twitter. And I'm also on Blue Sky now. So you can find me I'm also on Instagram, though less so. I for some reason, Instagram, I can't get the hang of it, but I am on Blue Sky and Twitter and Instagram, so you can find me in any of those locations. And I'll, I send updates and post about Teenage Robot and pass on fan art from my followers. So I'm relatively active on those media sites.
That's great. We've had a great time speaking to the author of The Cursed Cloak of the Wretched Wraith. Our guest has been Rob Renzetti. Hey, Rob, thanks so much for being back on the show, and please create another book so you can come back on.
All right, Jed, I would love to be back as many times as I have a book. I will show up.
Hey, my friends, I have a super idea you are going to love. How about this weekend, turn your backyard cookout into a storybook celebration? Fire up the grill, crack open a few of your favorite picture books, and serve up Big Fork Brand's legendary bacon sausage. Made with nitrate-free bacon and premium pork, it's juicy, smoky, and unforgettable. Top it off with Big Fork's spicy Chicago fire sauce, and you've got a meal as bold as the characters in your favorite bedtime tale. Get 20% off your order using the promo code READ at bigforkbrands.com. That's bigforkbrands.com. Promo code READ to get 20% off, because nothing brings families together like great food, great books, and a whole lot of flavor. Big Fork Brands. Read, grill, repeat. Hey, Hey, my friends, you know one of my favorite parts of the day is story time. There's just something magical about snuggling up with your kids, opening a great book, and escaping into an adventure together. And let me tell you, that moment becomes even more magical when you're curled up in the softest, coziest bedding you've ever felt. That's why I'm so excited that CozyEarth.com is supporting reading with your kids. Their bamboo sheets, comforters, and pajamas are unbelievably soft, naturally breathable, and temperature regulating, which means no more sweaty nights or chilly toes. Right now, Cozy Earth is offering Reading with Your Kids listeners an unbelievable and exclusive 41% off their entire site. That's right, you heard me right, 41% off. So go ahead, create your own cozy reading nook, wrap yourself and your kids up in something comfy, grab your favorite bedtime book, and turn story time into the best part of your day. Head on over to CozyEarth.com and use the promo code READ at checkout to save 41%. That's CozyEarth.com, promo code READ. Join us right now from the beautiful city of Los Angeles in California. Our guest is here today to celebrate her picture book. It's called Firefly Song, Lynn Faust and the Great Smoky Mountain Discovery. Please welcome to the show, Colleen Paeff. Hey, Colleen, how are you?
Hey, I'm well. Thank you for having me.
Delighted to have you on. What an interesting title, Firefly Song and the Great Smoky Mountain Discovery. What's this book all about?
This is a nonfiction picture book. It tells the story of Lynn Faust. She grew up spending her summers in the Smoky Mountains of Tennessee. And when she became an adult, she realized that some of the fireflies that she had been seeing since she was a kid behaved differently than the fireflies that were down on the farm where she grew up. And she suspected that they were synchronous. And eventually she read an article that said that we don't have synchronous fireflies in the Western Hemisphere. And she thought, I know that we do. I've seen them since I was a child. So she started trying to get in touch with scientists to have them come out and see these fireflies. And they sort of poo-pooed her, and said, people have looked for synchronous fireflies. We know there are none here. And finally, she sent one of the scientists a musical score of the way the fireflies flashed. And he looked at this score and he thought, maybe she's onto something. And so he came out with his research partner, saw the fireflies. They were blown away because Lynn was correct. And then she became their research partner, and she conducted research with them for 17 years. They proved to the scientific community that she was right about the synchronous fireflies, and now she's a firefly expert.
That's amazing. Now, when you say synchronous, are we talking about the fireflies are flashing together?
Yes, sort of. So when you see them, they're not all flashing exactly at the same time, but they flash for 6 seconds. They'll do 6 flashes in about 6 seconds. So it sort of looks like twinkling Christmas lights for 6 seconds, and then it goes completely dark for 6 seconds. And so when they really are at their peak, some of them will flash in sync really all together, but mostly what it looks like is kind of like flashing Christmas lights and then total darkness, and then more flashing lights and then total darkness. It's really cool.
Yeah, that is really cool. Do we have any idea if the fireflies are communicating with each other?
Well, they are. So the male fireflies are the ones that are flying around doing the flashing, and they are communicating with female fireflies that are on the forest floor. So they're, they're showing off their flash, and then if the female is interested, she flashes back at them, and then the males will swoop down and hope to mate.
Very cool. Now, how old was Lynn when she started reaching out to the scientists?
So I want to say she was in her early 30s. She was a young mom. So she had grown up spending summers in the Smokies. And then they had this family cabin, and the Great Smoky Mountain National Park was about to be taking over all the cabins that all these people had, had for many years before it became a national park. And so she really started paying attention to, this was, I think, in 1992. She started paying closer attention to all the things that she was going to miss. And that was when she thought, hey, these fireflies are different.
Mm-hmm. Wow. And have we determined that they are, in fact, a completely different species from the quote-unquote normal fireflies?
Yes, and we have, there are over 2,000 species of fireflies. I think, I can't remember, but in the Smoky Mountains, I can't remember how many fireflies they have in the Smoky Mountains, but there are a surprising number of species of fireflies. I think most people think that they're just seeing the same one. One of them that I fell in love with when I was there in the Smoky Mountains doing research is called the blue ghost. That's not its scientific name. I don't remember the scientific name, but it's called the blue ghost, and it's tiny. The light is really small, and it's a bluish color, and instead of flashing, the light remains constant, and it just hovers about a foot over the ground. And it's light. You can kind of see it almost like a little spotlight. One flew over my shoe, and you could see the light on my shoe as it flew over, and it's just flying along looking for a potential mate.
I'm fascinated. Growing up in the city, I didn't see many fireflies, but we would go camping, a couple of weeks every year. And I remember the first time I saw fireflies, that was pretty cool.
Yeah, the first time I saw them, I was in my 30s because I've lived in California my whole life. So I had seen them. I had seen fake fireflies on the Pirates of the Caribbean ride at Disneyland, but I didn't see real ones until I was visiting Iowa in my 30s, and I was so mesmerized.
So how does the flash work? I imagine they don't plug themselves into a USB port and recharge.
It's a chemical. I want to say it's called luciferase, or it has Lucifer in there. But it's a chemical that they have. And another thing that's interesting about them, not specifically related to the lights, was that there's a species that eats other fireflies. So most fireflies have this chemical that makes them taste bad to birds and, other animals that might be trying to eat them. But this particular species, Phogurus, is the name, the main name. I don't know the scientific word for that. But they actually don't have that chemical that makes fireflies taste bad. So they lure other species of fireflies in by replicating their flash, and then they eat them. And that's how they get that chemical to make them taste bad, because they don't have it naturally. So if you're catching fireflies, you don't want to put more than one firefly in the same jar, because if you put 6 different fireflies in the same jar, you might wake up in the morning and have only one left, and the other ones may have all been eaten.
I marvel at science and what we know. Imagine that a firefly somehow figures out that I don't have this thing and they have it, and so I'm going to eat them so I can get it.
I know.
That's like, ChatGPT style intelligence.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
Well, I'm thinking not only, when we're reading Firefly Song with our kids, not only are we introducing our kids to these amazing creatures, and Lynn, who's pretty amazing herself, but we're also introducing our kids to just how amazing nature is. Yes, absolutely. And that's really what made this discovery possible, was that Lynn was so in tune to the magic of nature
and she paid attention to it. And it was her close attention that led her to notice that something was different with these fireflies.
Now, have you had a chance to sit down and talk with Lynn?
Yes, I've talked to her many times. She's been very generous. We mostly talk on WhatsApp, but we, especially in the early stages when I was conducting my research, she was really generous with her time. And she met my husband and I in the Smoky Mountains during the fire, while this, they call it the light show, while this light show was happening in the Smokies. And she took us all around and took us to see the fireflies and showed us the cabin that she went to as a child, and then the ruins of the cabin that her husband's family had, and it was amazing.
Yeah. Now, she sounds like a pretty special person, because when she made this discovery, she wasn't a scientist. She was just a mom or
right. She had studied anthropology in school, and then after she graduated, she and her husband went on a 3-year sailing trip around the world. And even then, she was very scientific minded, so she would, they would go diving and find shells, and she collected shells, and she would note when and where specifically she found them. So, she was, and even during this whole time period when she was kind of studying these fireflies on her own, she was taking really careful notes. Uh-huh. And now, she became the research partner of these 2 scientists who came up to the Smokies to see the fireflies. But now she has written the only field guide to North American fireflies that really exists. And it's such a fun read. It's got lots of stories about her field work and, studying fireflies by canoe or camping overnight in a cave or on horseback through the mountains. She's got amazing stories. And she learned everything she knows about fireflies by reading, by going to conferences, by doing field work. She didn't go back to school to become a biologist or an entomologist. She did it all herself. And now she writes scholarly papers, and she's a real expert. She does a lot of consulting for documentaries. She got to meet David Attenborough a couple of years ago, which was pretty exciting for her.
I imagine it must be pretty exciting. You're excited for her.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, I think there's a lot of conversations that we can have with our kids about this. One of them being, don't let anybody tell you no. No matter how many letters they have behind their name and where they work or go to school, if you believe in something, keep on going. Yeah,
absolutely. She really persisted, and it paid off. Yeah. And also what I love is that she learned, just because she wanted to learn. She didn't, wait for school, there was something she was interested in, and she found a way to learn about it.
Yeah. Now, how did you become so interested and fascinated with the Firefly Song story?
I read a magazine article in 2014 in a paper magazine called Mental Floss, and right away I knew that it would make a perfect picture book. I could just visualize it in my head, Lynn as a child watching the fireflies and exploring in the forest, and but I was not published yet, and so I just held on to that article because I was afraid that if I asked her if I could write her story without already having published something, she wouldn't take me seriously. Uh-huh. So I waited, and just before The Great Stink came out, which was my first book that came out in 2021, in March of that year, I sent her an email, and I sent her an essay I had written for the Iowa newspaper the first time that I saw fireflies. I wrote about, the experience in seeing them. So I sent her an email, and I sent her a copy of that article and said, I would really love to write a picture book about you. And she said yes, amazingly.
So you were afraid that Lynn was going to respond to you the same way those snotty professors respond.
Yes. Yeah, pretty much. But she was very generous and kind, and she said yes right away.
That's really wonderful. Writing nonfiction books for kids, it's a genre, I guess, that's growing. How long have you been interested in writing in this genre?
I started writing nonfiction in 2014. When I first became interested in writing for kids, the first story I ever wrote was fiction. And then in 2014, I found a subject that I was interested in that still has never become a book, but got interested in nonfiction that way. And now I have 2 books coming out next year that started as nonfiction, but that are actually now fiction. They're kind of what you might call informational fiction. So they're made up stories, but they're based on facts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Tell me what if we have a lot of aspiring writers out there, what kind of advice would you give to somebody who is considering writing a nonfiction picture book?
The best advice I can give is to read as widely as possible. Read nonfiction picture books. Don't rely on your local Barnes & Noble, or even some independent bookstores do not have great nonfiction sections for children. So go to the library, get picture books that have been written in the last 3 years, 5 years, and just read as many as you can so that you can learn what's out there. What I did in 2014 when I started getting serious about writing picture books was I started a book club, and it was for people who were interested in writing for children, and we got together every month and we would read out loud to each other, maybe like 20 books. And these were not just nonfiction. They were all kinds of books. We just would focus on one publisher every month. So we might do Chronicle books one month, and then we might do an imprint of Simon & Schuster the next. And it was such a great way to learn about the industry and what's being published and what different publishers like. And I built a community, and now many of the people that first started coming to that book club are published, which is really exciting.
That is exciting. And it's just a great reminder that being an author, when you become a children's author, you're starting a small business.
Yes.
And you really do have to look at what you're doing. Obviously, it's an art, but if you want your art to reach the largest audience, you need to start thinking like a business person. And that's pretty difficult for a lot of people, I think.
Yeah. It doesn't necessarily come naturally, especially if you're more artistically inclined.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What are you researching right now? What's the story that you're dying to tell the world?
Right now I am doing some research on the Gilded Age and children in like the late 19th century in New York. So I'm just kind of digging around for a story there.
Did that HBO series?
Oh, yes. It didn't spark the idea, no, but I have seen that series.
My beautiful wife was very surprised that I had seen the series. She's like, I go, yeah, well, it rains in it. I like it. Tell me, anything, what other kind, we talked about, Firefly Song sparking conversations about nature, and a little bit about, believing in yourself and don't let anybody say no to you. But what about inspiring kids to explore the STEM fields?
Yeah, well, one thing so when I was writing this book, I tried to make it sort of a circular story. So it starts out with Lynn as a child exploring nature, collecting things, looking for things. And it ends basically the same way. She's an adult. She's exploring nature. She's looking for cool things. But now it's her job. That is the scientific job that she does. And I feel like it's important that we make sure kids know that a lot of the scientific fields are things that they're already doing as curious kids, you know?
You know, one of the things that I get excited about, and we have Colleen and I have a mutual friend, Jen Swanson, and Jen and I started a podcast together called Solve It for Kids. And one of the first episodes we recorded was talking about the ocean and oceanography and aquanauts. And it's just amazing to think that we know more about outer space than we know about our ocean. And, you know, there's so much to be discovered. You know, we have all this technology and we've discovered so many things, but there's still a lot out there to discover. And I think that should excite a lot of kids.
Yes, definitely. And you don't have to wait until you're an expert to be making discoveries.
Absolutely. I think that that's a real important takeaway from this, is that everybody can be a scientist.
Yeah.
Yeah. Colleen, we should tell everybody how they can discover more about Firefly Song and find out more about you.
Firefly Song is available wherever books are sold. You can get it at your independent bookstore, probably your library. You can get it on Amazon. You can find me online. I'm at ColleenPaeff.com, ColleenPaeff. And you can sign up for my newsletter. I'm on Instagram. Sometimes I'm on Facebook. I'm on Blue Sky. I'm on Pinterest.
Awesome. We've had a great time speaking to the author of Firefly Song, Lynn Faust, and the Great Smoky Mountain Discovery. It's a new picture book from our guest, Colleen Paeff. Colleen, thanks for being on Reading with Your Kids.
Thank you so much.
We are so very happy that you joined us here on Reading with Your Kids, where real magic happens every time a child opens a book with someone they love. If you've had a good time with us today, if it made you smile, if it gave you something to think about, please share the episode with your friends and leave a 5-star review. It helps us reach more magical families just like yours. And hey, don't forget to subscribe so you never miss a moment of Reading with Your Kids. We'd also love to connect with you on social media, facebook.com/readingwithyourkids, at Reading with Your Kids on Instagram, and at Jedley Magic on X. I want to thank the folks who made today's show so wonderful, starting with our guest, Rob Renzetti. Please be sure to check out The Cursed Cloak of the Wretched Wraith. Also want to thank Colleen Paeff. Please be sure to check out Firefly Song, Lynn Faust, and the Great Smoky Mountain Discovery. Want to thank our sponsors who are helping to make the promo code READ so very powerful. Of course, if you visit zivo.life, zivo.life, you receive 30% off. Our friends at bigfolkbrands.com, using the promo code READ will save you 20% off. And, of course, over at CozyEarth.com, you get a giant 41% off when you use that promo code READ. Want to thank my incredible team, Fatima Khan, Chris Doherty, Elle Glassman, Dante Greco. Want to thank my beautiful wife for all the support she gives me. Most of all, we want to thank you. Please keep smiling, keep reading, keep dreaming, and keep making the world a better place, one page at a time. I'll be looking for you in the next episode of Reading with Your Kids.
Sometimes we feel so far apart, like we're living in different worlds. But kindness is a super spark that connects all boys and girls. If you look inside your heart, you'll see we're not so different after all. Oh, we're gonna melt
miles. Oh, oh, oh.
One big team, come join the crew. There's room in this world for me and you. Oh, we're gonna melt down the walls that separate. Kindness and love can always conquer hate. Real magic happens when we celebrate all the ways we shine. Together we're great. Together we're great. Who's got the magic? We do. Who makes the change? Me and you. What breaks the wall? Breaks the fall. Breaks the third. We're gonna melt down the walls that separate. Kindness and love can always conquer hate. Real magic happens when we celebrate